And now we get to our member-specific segment. Maddie, what are we talking about? And why are you subjecting me to this?
You were not happy that this was the topic I wanted to bring up because this is not interesting to you. But we were talking today about Zen and the art of setting up board games.
Ooh.
Now, I really love setting up a board game. It's one of my favorite parts of the game night. I usually try, if I know what the game we're playing in advance, I will get to my office a little bit early before everybody arrives, and I will really meditatively set up a board game. I find it like building Legos, which was like my favorite thing as a child to do. I love following directions and watching as a beautiful picture unfolds before me. And that to me is what setting up a board game is like. The more complicated the game to set up, the better for me. I really love following the directions and making sure I set it up perfectly and getting that end result on the table when it's all laid out perfectly and everything's in lovely stacks and organized and everybody's player boards are out with all their meeples lined up in perfect little rows. It brings me great joy.
And for me, I'm fine with the over the clothes stuff, but I'm much more interested in what happens when we get down to action.
Sure, I understand. But so I will say there are some games that I really love setting up, and there are some games that I don't. And then thinking about it, it actually was interesting to see the differences. So I love setting up anything by Mind Clash because it creates this beautiful board in front of me, and because it's just sort of simply follow the directions on the rule book, and it's not complicated to set up. So I can just I can really zen out. It's meditative. When I say the word meditative here, I'm being quite literal. I do find this as a mind-clearing, calming experience. Vital Lacerda game is exactly the same. It creates this beautiful picture by the end, and all I have to do is just follow the directions very simply. Gaia Project is another one as well. Games that I do not enjoy setting up, though. War of the Ring. I cannot relax when I have to find, so 4 orcs and 1 troll go into Lothlorien.
Yeah.
All right, where's Lothlorien again? Look at the map. Now look back. There's so much cross-referencing. You have to be so focused to not make a mistake, because if you mess up one thing, it's going to throw the whole balance of the game off. I find that not fun. Gloomhaven sucks setting up. It's not fun building the map, finding the map pieces. Now it needs J4. Oh, wait, which one's J4? Oh, no, that's J3. Oh, and that's the other side. Oh, I can't find the big map. And then it's such a pain in the butt. Feast for Odin also. Oh, God. Okay. All the little pieces have to be on the gray board. And it's super annoying. So there are some games that are not fun. And the difference is that I want to turn my mind off when I set up a board game. I just want to follow the directions and be able to just let my mind wander and just slowly watch it unfold before me. And games where I have to be fully focused, or else if I make a mistake, it's going to throw off the whole game, is not enjoyable.
So So for me, Antiquity, one of my absolute favorite games, is just horrible to set up. It is just, there are so many little pieces to that game. So many times.
Tom, I just thought of the ultimate one. I mean,
shall we tell the story?
tell the tale of the quake and the boats.
So Maddie had been saying for months that, you know what, I really have to play Roads and Boats. I've never played Roads and Boats, and I was like, Maddie, I'm dying to play it with you. The only reason we don't play it is that it is a bear to set up. It's so fiddly. There's so many pieces. It's actually not the easiest teach either. There's a lot to it. We're just gonna have to pick a night where we're not gonna have a normal game night. It's just gonna be you and me, and in this case Alfred, and we're gonna get together, because I think Roads and Boats, I think 3 is probably the perfect spot for that game. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna get out my lucite, and I'm gonna place everything in the right place. Then I'm gonna put it down on top of it and set the whole thing up. We get ready to play. I explain the rules. We're getting ready to go. We're starting to go. And how far did we get into the game? Did we?
I think you said, all right, so Roads and Boats. Let's start to teach. And then...
Shake, shake, shake. Earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. And
the largest earthquake that we had in almost 10 years.
Yeah, it was a real shock. It was a real shaker. No question about it. I mean, Alfred and I, don't care about our loved ones, but you got on the phone right away. Actually,
well, my wife at the time, we had like a 4-week-old child, and she was home alone with our infant, our newborn, and our 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old, and it was like she was like, "You're coming home," and I was like, "Yep, bye, gotta go."
Alfred and I were screaming in the background, "Suck it up! Suck it up! We'll be back later." No.
I also didn't want, because an earthquake.
No.
When you're born and raised in California, you've lived here long enough. You never think it's done. You always have to assume that's a pre-shock. Here comes the big one. So I didn't want to take the risk of leaving my wife alone with our two very young children. The big one was about to hit.
Maddie, you don't have to explain yourself. I've mostly forgiven you. But it was those games, those early splatter games are beasts to set up and beasts to get going. But my favorite games to set up are games where the setting up of the game is a game in and of itself. So Wallenstein and Shogun, basically the same game with different theming, are amazing because your player mat has two sides. One side has these little camps that you put your armies on, and then the game is you flip up two location cards. And each player gets to choose between one of those two location cards, and then they choose any camp of their armies and place it on that space. So you're building the starting location, right? It's not 3 orcs go here and Ringwraith goes here. It's not that. It's you are choosing, and it's a kind of a tactical decision how the board is set up each game, and I think that's just brilliant. I absolutely love that.
I'm going to admit something now, Tom. This is a safe space for me to admit things.
Go for it. Do it. You are loved.
I've set up board games in the last few months just to set them up because I miss gaming so much.
You are a psychopath, but it's safe. It's good. You're good. You're okay. It's all right.
I have been stressed out with work or life and just thought, I'm just going to set up a board game like it's game night. And it was so therapeutic and calming, and just to set it all up and then just to put it back in the box. And, it gives me something to do with my hands, which is all as a part of how I meditate. I'm not a good just sit there, do nothing kind of person. I'm a take a walk and clear my head kind of a meditator.
Interesting.
So I found it to be a very therapeutic thing. But let's move into the next. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sure, we can, but I do want to say here's the one way we are alike. I hate it when I get a new game on a Friday because I know that there's a really good chance we're going to play it that day. And I do miss. I don't like seeing other people punching out my sprues. I don't like other people, punching out my game. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to punch them out, and I want to set up the whole board, and I want to read the rule book, looking at the board and looking at the pieces. So for that first time, I'm 100%. I'm exactly like what you're describing. I do like the meditative thing of figuring it out. Once I've figured it out, though, I don't get the same charge in future setups, really.
Yeah, I understand. No, there is nothing more exciting than cracking the plastic on a new game and punching it all out. And I love the organizing aspect of it, which leads us perfectly into our next section, because you can't set up a board game if it sucks when you open the box and everything's all crazy jumbled around in there. How you organize your board games, how you actually find the state they are in when you open up the box, will dictate very often the type of experience you're going to have and how enjoyable it is to get that game to the table. Yeah. There are many ways to organize a board game. Most board games, when you buy them, come with maybe a handful of little baggies in there with no guide to how to do it or what to do. And some of them come with literally thousands of cards and pieces. Yeah. And it's up to you to find your own little way to organize them. Now, after 10 years of doing this, I'm like a machine. Like I open this and my brain instantly starts doing all of these different things. Like this will fit perfectly in a 5406 Plano. I'm going to need 14 medium-sized bags here. I instantly just like visualize the entire thing. And I'm like, what's her name? Maria Kondo. The person who does, Maria Kondo. Like I just instantly know how to like perfectly organize it in my head. But then there are times when you open a box and there's so many things and you go, man, this would be great if there was like an aftermarket insert for this that just had it all perfectly out there. And so for the last 10 years, have gone down the path of really trying out every single possible aftermarket insert, organizer, and storage option. And I'm going to tell you some of my favorites here. Now, Tom, before we get into that, though, Tom has a different idea of organizing his games. Yeah. Tom, do you want to say what you do?
I mean, my main strategy is the gallon bag strategy, because there's no game on the market today that all of the pieces don't fit in a gallon bag. So you just pour them in and done. I mean, literally saving hours and hundreds or even thousands of dollars. I really highly recommend
the component drop that Tom Vassell does at the beginning of every Dice Tower review. Tom looks at that and goes, that game's ready to play.
That's how I put my games away. That is absolutely no. But this said, you have all of these things in these little Plano boxes and stuff like that. And guess what? Sometimes it's not easy to get the pieces out of those little Plano boxes, and stuff like that. Sometimes. The ones that I figured out over time, that the ones that have the curved side, right, where you can slide it out, those ones work. The other ones are useless to me. Whereas if it
depends on the size of the chit, but yeah.
In all seriousness, I go to my 99-cent store, I get my snack-sized bags and my sandwich-sized bags, because those are the only two you're ever going to need. I put each type of piece in that bag, I throw them in the thing, and the only other thing I ever get is I get those silicone cupcake molds. And when I pull them out of the bag, I pour them into one of those, and we're good to go. That's me. That's
totally fine. And you know what? I will say this: any money you spend on board game organizers could totally be spent on literally anything else. Anything else would probably be a better use of your money. Except I will say that there are certain games that it really helps the experience and gets to the table more. So if a $40 board game organizer, which is what some of these things cost, makes your $40 game get to the table 5 times as much as it would.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe maybe you're getting a lot more value for that game. Then, if a game is a beast to set up and you play it 3 times and it sits on the shelf forever and it stresses you out, if you spent another 30 or 40 to buy an organizer that makes you excited to play it, then that might actually have been the actual cost of the game for you. And that's how I often think of it.
Manny, so, I heard a rumor that at the Broken Token offices, they have a 3D statue of you there. Is that true?
Well, sure. But I mean, that's outside of the plaque that they've named the building after, because I built 4 wings of that thing.
Is it true that they kiss your molded feet each morning before they go into work?
No, that's Meeple Realty that does that. So look, here's the thing also. A lot of games have gotten better with their inserts. When I first started in this hobby, there wasn't an insert to be found anywhere. Nobody did. You got an empty box, or if you were Fantasy Flight Games, you got that stupid cardboard thing with one, World War I trench down the middle that holds what the hell that thing is for. And that was it. And you got nothing. The trays were crap.
Manny, what does the inside of the Roads and Boats box look like?
Oh, I think it's just a middle finger. It's just like 2 Scandinavians laughing at you. But these days you get some wonderful inserts that come into games. I mean, most notably, all the Vital Lacerda games have pretty beautiful inserts. The people have gotten better about it, but
I think the be-all, end-all right now, my absolute number one insert for any game ever designed, I think the 2nd edition Eclipse is crazy how good they did.
Yeah, they did a great job. Well, and here's the thing. I feel like they took some notes from Mind Clash, because the Tricarion Collector's Edition is hands down the greatest insert I've ever. I own them all. I own all the inserts, baby. And nothing beats the Tricarion Collector's Edition insert. It's shocking. I mean, it's just you put it on the table and it looks like a work of art. All right, so let's talk about some of these companies. There are entire companies out there. There is a cottage industry around building aftermarket storage solutions for your board games. My favorites, the Cadillac of board game organizers, is a company called Meeple Realty. Why do I think they're the best? Well, because they are ridiculously over the top. I mean, they do create a VIP first class experience for your games. These are usually wooden pieces that you're going to be gluing together, but they're gorgeous. They designed them to be aesthetically pleasing. They're not just some ugly, laser cut wood. They are meant to look like the game was designed around them, and often they are officially licensed by the designers as well as the publishers. But they really do go out of their way to be aesthetically pleasing and beautiful, and they are expensive and completely unnecessary and wildly over the top. But if you love that game and it is your favorite game, I mean, there is no other way to store your game than with a Meeple Realty thing. And they have never sent me one thing free. In fact, I think I've paid for all their children to go to college at this point.
Well, you have a Dominion a card holder that is made out of the very last Oregonian redwood, I believe. Is that correct?
No, it was the last tooth of a Bengal tiger.
That's your start player piece, right? That's what you.
All right, so Meeple Realty, pricey, beautiful, incredible. They also just happen to make games, inserts for some of my favorite games. Next, I'm going to go to the budget version, which has sort of taken over. I now buy these for almost everything because they are so affordable. I almost feel like, why not? Folded Space is a company that makes inserts completely out of foam core. And so they usually cost about $15, maybe €10, €10. They are a European company. They are located in Bulgaria. You order directly from them at very cheap prices, and it takes about a month to get to your house if you're in the States. But I do it all the time, and I usually buy 4 or 5 at a time. They're like $10, $15 each. And they are remarkably well designed and sturdy. And even though they're foam core, and you have to have a little bit of Elmer's glue to put them together, if you're like me, you enjoy that process of sitting down and listening to a podcast, maybe this one, while building a insert for your board game. And they're fantastic. And I've sort of, at this point now, unless I really love a game, unless it's my favorite game ever, unless it's Twa, I'm buying the Folded Space one for it because it's $10 and it's like, it's great. It's totally fine. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. It does a really good job. So I recommend Folded Space as well. After that, you've got the two companies that have been doing it the longest, Broken Token and Go7 Gaming. They were around when I first got into this hobby 10 years ago. They're still going strong. They still make great stuff. They're just, they're not Meeple Realty, and they're more expensive than Folded Space, but they definitely have a place here. And often these companies will do games that nobody else has done. So, for example, I just bought something from Broken Token. What did I just buy from them? Hold on, I have to look it up because now I'm forgetting what I bought. And I just bought it the other day, and I was so happy about it. I bought the Wingspan organizer from the Broken Token because nobody else had one, and I really wanted a nice organizer for Wingspan because my wife and I have been playing it a lot. And they had a fantastic one. So those are your main options. Outside of that, you're looking at Etsy. And Etsy has become, in the last couple of years, a really great place for board game designers because everyone and their mother owns a 3D printer now.
Yep.
And so people are using their 3D printers to make their own inserts, and they're usually pretty affordable. And they're usually made for games that, like these companies like Meeple Realty, Folded Space, Broken Token, it's going to be a year or two until you get one for a game. So if you buy a game and you want an insert for it right away, someone on Etsy probably has it. And you're going to wait a year or two for Meeple Realty to get around to designing it, maybe 6 months at the fastest. But if you just bought a game and you really want an insert for it and you don't want to wait for Meeple Realty and Folded Space and all of them to get around to it, Etsy is your place to go. And people are being very creative and actually coming up with some really cool stuff out there. Lastly, I will say the king of inserts in Europe is a company called eRaptor. They make some beautiful inserts as well. Shipping to the States is less than ideal because they are wood and beautiful and fancy, and I believe eRaptor is in Poland, so the shipping makes it usually impossible. Whereas Folded Space, they're foam core and they weigh nothing, so they're pretty cheap to ship. And they ship them, in like just little envelopes. But yeah, I've never paid for eRaptor because the shipping is almost as expensive as the organizers. But if you are in Europe, that is your place to go. And that's my overall look at the last thing I will say. Planos are fantastic. For the right game, like Tom said, there are some games where the chits get hard to come out. But Plano is a good way. If you go to the Container Store in the States, or you even just go to any fish and tackle place, you can get a lot of really great Plano boxes that will be perfect organization for a lot of your games, especially ones with a lot of chits. Uwe Rosenberg games go great with Plano boxes. And war games, I have a stack of GMT counter trays. Maybe once a year, I will go to GMT's website and buy, for $10, I'll buy 5 GMT chit trays, and those are fantastic for storing chits in any war game, or I even use them for roads and boats. They're awesome and very inexpensive and great ways to organize.
And what's your secret for 18XX?
Oh, for 18XX, I use those jewelry holders for the tiles, but All Aboard Games, or not, sorry, Rails. Oh God, I have to remember the name of the company. There is Rails on Boards. So if you want some awesome special holders for your train tiles in 18XX games, a company called Rails on Boards has started designing some, and I think they're just started shipping. So go check those out. Lastly, let's just talk about organizing on the table. That's something I've sort of gotten into more recently because BGG has put out some wonderful organizing tools. They have their silicone cup / coasters. These wonderful little silicone coasters that fold up into beautiful component chit holders. For like $30, you can get like 15 of them. And I just have a giant stack of them, and people use them to put their drinks on them and fold them up into little cups to put components in. Those are great just to keep your table organized. And lastly, they also have these wonderful card and chit holders, these little long sort of thick silicone things that line your table that you can actually slide cards into that hold them up, sort of like I know bridge players use those little wooden things that hold cards in them. This looks like that, but it also has about 5 wells for your resources and stuff, which are really handy.
Yeah, I use the pieces from 10 Days in the USA and those 10 Days games. I've got like about 4 of them, so I have tons and tons of those cards holders, but they don't have those little chit holders.
So the fun part about this whole thing, just to recap here, is that there are really budget-friendly ways to handle all these things. Like Tom said, you don't have to have the fancy BGG cup holder chits. You can just use those silicone molds people use for making cupcakes. They work great. There are lots of fun, creative ways to organize your space and do it in a budget-friendly way. You can get fancy and get Meeple Realty and get the fanciest, Cadillac for your board games, or you can, like Tom said, just go to the supermarket, buy a bag of baggies, and it's really about whatever makes it relaxing for you, whatever makes you feel like when you open that box, you're not going to be overwhelmed and stressed out, and you can get it set up in a way that gets you gaming quickly. Supermarket.
You buy baggies at the supermarket? I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I bought so many snack bags at the 99-cent store that one of the women at the counter recognized me and thought I was a drug dealer because evidently they buy them by they buy thousands and thousands of the little baggies, right, for the dime bags or whatever. So literally thought I was a drug dealer
or whatever. Okay, Tom.
That's what. No, listen. If it's not at the 99-cent store, it's not an organizer for me. That's me.
I love it. No, and I think it's important to see the spectrum here, because you can be a crazy, wasteful money spender like me with stuff like that. But somebody who also has a lot of passion for it and loves it, or you can. There's ways to totally do it without buying useless things.
Well,
And the board game insert is at the top of the list of useless things.
But now I have to own it because I feel like Pigpen a little bit. And when I come to your game night, it is such a luxury experience I can't begin to describe. Like when I choose, you and I generally are not at the same table when we're gaming because each of us has to teach somebody oftentimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at your game night, I open a box and everything is just the only pain in the butt is the unpacking of all of the perfect things that are already set up for you, which is amazing. It is it's like I'm going to a game spa. And then at the end of the process, I start trying to put the stuff away and you look at me and go, don't. No,
I don't let anybody put my board games away. Yeah, that's funny. Everybody's like, can we help you? And I'm like, no, you help me by leaving my house and letting me do it alone because I'm the only one who knows how to put it back. And if you mess it up, it's going to bother me. And that's also a thing the thing I get made fun of most for is that, like, you know how anytime you play a board game, there's stacks of chits all around the board and stuff. And I'm constantly grooming them and like making them look nice. And the way people torture me at the table is when I look away, when I look back, all the chits are scattered around and everybody waits for me to notice and like waits for my eye to start twitching. And, OCD is actually a medical condition that I don't want to say I have because I don't, but I definitely really like things to be neat and orderly on the table. And it doesn't pain me when they're not. I can live with it, but why not make it look nice if you can? So I'll often find myself grooming the board at all times, or I'll even reach over to somebody else's tableau if all of their chits and stuff are not nice, and I'll just when they go to the bathroom or something, I'll organize it for them.
I may have started the trend of intentionally moving things askew, and for that I apologize. But it's a wonderful little side game to play for people that don't actually listen. If OCD is a spectrum, you're on the spectrum, but it's not something that seems to cause you pain. It's just something.
No, I don't want to diminish people who actually have OCD.
Yeah. But my whole point for this is that when I come to
I'm anal retentive. Let's say that.
My whole point of this is that even though I don't do that, I don't dip my toe into that sort of thing, and I'm fine with plastic baggies and cupcake holders. When I come to your game night, I very much appreciate the experience, and the upgrade of that experience is immediately evident to me. So there you go.
Well, thank you. There you go. Two sides of the spectrum.
It is.
Both now.
Very much so. Very much so. Pigpen and whatever the heck you are, Linus, I guess.
Yeah. We're the odd couple.
Yeah, very much so.
We're the board game odd couple.
Yeah. And my games are pristine though; they're in really good condition. I don't let bad things happen to them. So I'm.
We didn't even talk about sleeving. That'll be a whole other episode.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides of that for sure. We are on.
I sleeve like crazy.
Oh, I feel like you are putting condoms on things that are not meant to have condoms. It's just
I hear you.
horrible. You know what? That's where you are thriftier than me, because I will buy a new copy of the game when the cards get old rather than sleeve them.
Yeah, no.
So that's what I will do. I will purchase the game again to get a fresh deck of cards, and I have no problem with that. I mean,
if you buy a used copy from me, you are getting a brand new copy. Basically,
no, I would buy a game from you in a heartbeat. I'd be like, this is like 20 times better than any game I own.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they are pristine.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.